Don't let the world get you down. Even when there's troubles all around, I know it can be hard, but I'll help you find a way to have some love and joy every day. I know that you're still young, but age can come real fast. We cling to youth until time and tears catch us at last. Innocence you will search out, oh, that holy grail, that mystic well. Don't let the world get you down. Even when there's troubles all around, I know it can be hard, but I'll help you find a way to have some love and joy every day. Don't let the world get you down. No, 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 even when there's troubles all around, I know it can be hard, but I'll help you find a way to have some love and joy every day. Hey, 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 in the silence of my room.
Everybody, please take a seat. We're about to begin. So welcome, everybody, to the Friday night seminar with John Morton Live. How many of you are here for the first time? Anyone? One? Few people? Well, actually, nobody. I can't see anybody in this room, but welcome to everybody online. And just in case there's anybody online that's been here for the first time or is viewing for the first time, I'll just let you know where we are and what we do here. We're at Peace Awareness Labyrinth and Gardens. It's a beautiful historic mansion with beautiful grounds in a labyrinth. And it's also the headquarters for the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness, which we also call MSIA. And MSIA was founded by John Roger in, I think, 1968. And the purpose of MSIA is to teach soul transcendence, which is to become more aware of who we are as a soul and that part of us that is a part of God. So I'm your host for this evening, obviously, and my name is Lori Matson, and I'm thank you. Thank you, and what am I? No, I facilitate the master's program and also the Sacred Tones workshops, which are held here weekly. So we've been doing seminars in this very room for almost 40 years. And the first one started with John Roger. He used to do them quite often, maybe, several times a month. And he used to do them live. And we're very blessed to have him, and we're also very blessed to have John Morton continue that tradition. So John Morton is the spiritual director of MSIA, and he's dedicated his life to serving and to assisting people to become more aware of their own divinity. And he also holds the keys to the traveler consciousness. We call the mystical traveler consciousness, which both he and John Roger hold the keys to. And actually, the mystical traveler consciousness is just a term we use, and it's actually in every single one of us, and it's just a part of us that knows how to connect ourselves into the heart of God. And by holding the keys, John Morton and John Roger just assist us to tune in to that part of us. So, and it's really great to have him here in this setting because it's a learning, growing, uplifting experience, and we get to learn from other people's sharings with John as well as our when he shares with us, if we have one. But anyway, before we begin, I just want to tell you to please not record any part of the seminar on any device or format. And as soon as we can, we're going to be putting it on the msia.org on the net. So if you want to listen to it again or if you want to share it with someone, you're free to do so. We welcome you to do that. So I'm going to start by calling in the light. And the light is really another name for God or for spirit. And God and spirit are always here, and it's actually just calling ourselves into attention to that fact. And after I call in the light, we're going to chant Anai Yu. And Anai Yu is derived from an ancient Sanskrit language. Anai means oneness or empathy, and Yu means God. So if you like, you could just close your eyes. Bring yourselves present into your heart. Father, Mother, God, we ask for the clearing. We ask for the Holy Spirit, the Christ, to surround, fill, and protect each one of us here. And we ask for the guidance and the protection of the mystical traveler consciousness through John Roger and John Morton. And we ask for greater blessings of peace at this time, greater awareness of the compassion and the understanding within us. And we ask that this greater understanding and loving just go around the planet to all our loved ones and to everyone on this planet. And we ask that the Christed light just surround this planet with its love. And we ask that anything that we can release here tonight that does not serve us, we ask that it just be taken up into the higher light and dispersed. And we are so grateful, Father, to be here together. And we ask all of this for the highest good, keeping in mind that thy will is always done. Berush Beshem. Anna. So some of you may have filled out some 3x5 cards to ask John a question during the seminar. If you have one and you want it to be collected, just raise your hand and the ushers will come and pick them up. The ushers have the choral name tags. And if you'd like a 3x5 card to write a question, just raise your hand and we'll bring you one. And if you're watching online and you'd like to ask a question, just email MSIA online, numeral 1, at gmail.com. So part of the tradition of doing seminars here in this room has always been creative contributions. And in the old days, when we were first doing seminars, JR asked that they be original compositions, whether they're a song or a musical, an instrumental or a poem. And having it be original really came from the heart. And it was a great way for everyone just to connect into their loving. So we're going to do that here tonight. We have two original pieces. One is a poem and one is a song. And the first one is from Beth Hinman. She is she's just performed a lot of really beautiful original poetry, and she has a poem tonight, and it's called New Year's Story. It's a story poem. So let's welcome Beth Hinman.
Hi. So this is a story that is best received from that place inside where we are all children. Once upon a story time, there was much commotion in the land of Grateful. It was that time of year again when all the ones who had just arrived here, the young ones, and all the ones who had been here for a very long time, the elders, gathered up all their things for the getting ready party because a new year was about to show up on the horizon. This was one of the most beloved celebrations in the land of Grateful because in this moment they all became masters of mustering an ever greater ability to bless and to give thanks for all things they still had with them in this moment. It was the moment when they took one more and perhaps one last look at all the learning in each thing, wrapped up all the things that they were done with in the most beautiful colored paper and ribbons, placed a blessing upon them, and then watched them rise in the air and float off to drift ever so lightly into that nearby region known as God's heart. Well, as you can imagine, there was just a lot of laughter and much awe as they watched the wrapped-up gifts fade from view. And there was one who had just arrived there, who had been a wanderer, a seeker, who had not known until this moment that he had been looking for the land of Grateful all along. And as he watched his first gift disappear into the region of God's heart, inspiration fell upon him, and a rhyme fell out of his mouth like a rainbow. He later became known as Sir Gratitude, and this was his rhyme. My Lord, you took me by surprise, received my gift before my eyes. Complete now, gone, it's home in thee, whilst I move on, memory-free. Similar experiences coming to me, but I now respond past a memory to attend with new eyes to what's already here and make something new of now's gift, something dear. Now as I look with these eyes made new, my choices rise up into you, the before of things already gone, whilst I'm lifting all things I look upon. Behold, I'm making all things new as I open to receive you through my experience here designed to teach a greater love for all, for each. It's all so simple, simply this, I open to our loving this, till all my things return to thee with greater goodness gifted free. Now I, as sunrise into you, open to receive you through all things this new day showing me, till my great full heart's full home in thee. Berush Beshem.
It's on. So we're going to have Denise Lumiere and Eric Lumiere have written an original song just for tonight. It's like a very recent original song, and it's really beautiful. I was able to hear it before the seminar, and it's a love song to John Roger. And Denise has been sharing her original music with us for quite a while. So please welcome Denise and Eric.
I remember the times we were together, your heart and soul. And I remember the love of my life, you are and were. I surrender. I surrender. And I believe that you were sent on the wings of love, and I can see that you will be always in my heart. I surrender. I surrender. I took it in, I breathed, I awoke from all the days that you spoke. Through lifetimes and centuries of old, you passed on the alchemy gold. I surrender. I surrender. My love to you. I surrender. I surrender.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. Now we're going to hear A Moment of Peace, hear and see A Moment of Peace by John Roger, and he says some really beautiful things about loving and being of service.
I know that it takes longer to heal when we're righteously indignant, and we heal faster when we're thankful and in an attitude of gratitude. When we're grateful and we tell people the gratefulness we feel for what they've done, we heal faster, so much faster. And with the Heartfelt Foundation, let alone the Peace Institute, when we go out and feed people, our volunteers of the Peace Institute and the Foundation, Heartfelt, they just get sky high on the energy of serving and the gratitude they have that they could have served these people that normally you wouldn't even talk to. They're just doing all this stuff for another being, and lo and behold, they find out their spirit was with them. And it's a really great, that's why we come back and we say, hey, we're going to do it again, and people just volunteer. You go, yeah. And then some go, no, I don't want to do it. They were in it for glory. They were in it to get their name in the paper or their picture or to be worshipped by somebody. That's not the way we want to do it. We want to do it out of the spirit of serving. When the person gets into that, they'll know it, because they'll just, against hell and high water, they'll end up serving. Which to me is the best psychotherapy and the best spiritual exercise physically. Berush Beshem.
Now is the moment we've all been waiting for. John Morton is a spiritual director of MSIA, and he's, as I said, dedicated his life to service and to peace. And he's done seminars all over the world. And I've gone to a lot of workshops and seminars he's done. And my experience with John is that he just has a tremendous amount of loving and understanding and wisdom that he shares with people in these settings. And I always come away with like a greater openness in my heart, a greater feeling of joy and peace, and it's like I get a spiritual alignment when I'm with John Morton in a seminar. So please welcome our beloved John Morton.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Sounds like Santa is still delivering something. So welcome to you all, wherever you are, especially those of you streaming and beaming in. I want to say something about what Lori very clearly was sharing with you about how the traveler consciousness works. Because it's engaged, so it's engaged in you, and it's something that considers it's very natural to everyone's being. So then, as we come more awake to the consciousness, we realize we've been experiencing what it is and what it's been revealing to us, and it's also as an experience of who we are. So it's very natural aspect of our consciousness, and it's also a very high in all of the best of what high could mean, like high, and the order of the divine. So how does the divine reveal itself? And part of it is that it always is working in a natural relationship to who we are. And one aspect of that is that we're ready. So just consider if you're here, that you are ready. You're ready to go, and it's going to work with you right up to what you can handle. So keep that in mind. And part of that is to do your part so that you can handle what you already have in your life in a way that you would consider, well, this is how my high consciousness would respond. In my life, I'm often humbled by circumstances because, my experience is, well, this isn't the way my high consciousness would handle this. This is some other consciousness, like some imposter, some alien, some stranger, something like that. It's often a sense of who is this, or what is this that's coming through. I find that that's part of how our high consciousness is working with us, how the traveler is working with us. The keys are something that you could relate to as what can open, and often it's open because it's protected. Some protection is done in a way so it's sealed, and philosophically you could read a lot into this, and a lot has been said through the ages about what we're all doing, all of us, whoever comes onto the planet, and not just human beings, whatever whatever comes onto planet, that it's part of the divine creation. So we look at what we're doing as a oneness, an integration, a wholeness in the best sense of what that is. That in our divine nature, in the divine nature in all things, there are no wars, there are no conflicts. Things like suffering and pain dissolve. So that's one reality that the traveler consciousness can awaken in all of us, is that something that is negative, and that's a very simple way we often refer to the part of us that's temporary, that's not going to last. And so when we are in pain, when there is suffering, when there's any form of conflict, disturbance, one of the realities of our divine nature is this is temporary. It's not going to last. And that's an important realization, because if we understand what that means, then if we're going to do something because of something that's here, that then would become something we would regret later. And maybe you realize you have done things where if you had the opportunity to change it, that you would not do it. You'd do it in a different way. So part of that awakening is the opportunity to shift into our higher nature before we react from our lower nature. And one of the aspects of the traveler consciousness is this ability, with your permission, and that's part of it because you're being honored as I haven't said it like this before, but I'm just going to say what I'm hearing. You know, a fully packed, a fully loaded mechanism or device that you're carrying the power. You're carrying within you all the power that is God. And sometimes that may seem preposterous or something like that. That how could I be carrying the full power of God if, you know, the way I experience myself, the way I perceive things in my life, etc., seems so much less than great. And that can be a moment of pause too, that have some patience with yourself, have some mercy with yourself. So as you open up to this consciousness within you that we call the traveler, that's the key. That's like recognizing that you would like the traveler to work with you. And in the movement of spiritual inner awareness, which is where we are right now, we're in that movement, and we're in the formal part of it that we call the organization. But in that, we do come to you at some point with the opportunity, would you like to work with the traveler consciousness? Would you like to become an initiate? Even if right now you don't know what that is other than it's a word. What do you mean, initiate? Are we going to start something? Yes, we are going to start something. And it's already started. Would you like to get going? You know, would you like to come on? Would you like to step up? Would you want to come on board? There's a conductor there. There's somebody checking you out to determine how ready you are and to what degree you can take hold of the opportunity. So those keys are often something that's done in a very, very subtle way. So if you're looking for something demonstrative from, let's say, this traveler, you may come up short, like, well, what is it you're doing that's unlocking me or assisting me spiritually? And my main suggestion there is to look within, to be conscious and aware within, with an openness, so that if you do take positions, if you have beliefs, if you are in some ways hardened in how you view yourself and your world, that's respected. And then sometimes, you know, people wonder, well, why didn't you tell me? Or why did you allow me to be in this limited way of living? It's because that's your choice, that's your responsibility. The information is often available and repeatedly made available. And one way to look at that is that those of you who are partaking in the soul awareness discourses, which is our primary way of making the teachings available to those who are looking for the teachings, that you're going to see and experience a lot of repetition. You're going to see words, phrases repeated, so that in one way, and I've heard John Rogers say this many times, it's all in the first discourse. And then the second discourse is a repetition of the first discourse, not verbatim, so we try to make it interesting to some degree by changing up the words and the ideas, but essentially there's a core message that out of God comes all things. God loves all of its creation. Not one soul will be lost or is lost. So we all have what is necessary to move forward in what we call soul transcendence. And that's a phrase that you'll hear over and over as a way of referring to what is this work and what is it about. And it speaks directly about the soul, so it's about soul awareness, spiritual awareness, and it's about the destiny. It's in our DNA, it's in what must become, that we are to transcend in consciousness so that we have full realization of the glory of God and the beauty, the perfection that is always in everything and every moment. Beirish Beshan. Well, we just had a little seminar. Okay. That's how that works. And then we also have some cards and letters that are being brought to me right now. So we're going to make ourselves available to whatever you're asking. And you don't have to put in a card or write in order for the traveler consciousness to know what you're asking or what you would ask if you were to ask something. So if you're just open to this consciousness that knows perfectly who you are at all times, to be present with you, then I just suggest that you observe, and that is both outwardly and more importantly inwardly, to how what you're questing, whatever it is you're seeking, can be brought to you. We also have Michael Hayes here this evening, so I'm going to take advantage of that most likely. And he's been assisting quite some time with helping folks and assisting as many of you have, as Laurie Mattson has, in doing the traveler's work, and others who are facilitators and get involved in making the teachings available with the books and the seminars and all of the forms that this is happening. All right, here's a question. What can I do in those moments of depression where I feel convinced that I need not continue living, and the thing to do is to find the way to go? Well, that's correct. If you look at the temporary condition called your life in this world, and I need not continue living, that's what's up for everybody. So you're just, in a way, coming into a realization of what's up. However, so do this, however, you're here and there's a purpose in it. It's not punishment, so you can disregard that idea. It's not a form of judgment like a condemnation. It's not a prison sentence. It's not hell. So then what is it? It's come awake, come alive, overcome all things that confront you as limitation. That this ability, this power is within you. There is a way. In fact, there's a book that John Roger wrote that we've been sharing quite a bit with lately. I was just looking to see if it was one of the books that was up here. But it's called The Way Out book. And there's many books, but that's one of them, and it would bring to you a great deal of information about the way, and why would it be referred to as the way out? Because in some ways, when we behold what this world is, we understand that there is a way to the greater, a way that isn't even about what we accomplish or experience in a lifetime. That the way is transcendent, it's of a spiritual nature, so that the body at some point drops, sometimes literally. But the spirit that's in the body takes off in such that the body is no longer functioning as a life, or a life form, if you want to get technical. And then there are those who, in a way, act as though they're not functioning as a life form. And most of us probably, if not all of us, could probably say, I think I know what that is. So exactly, that as we wake up to our attunement spiritually, so seek that. It's available to you. And that's our practice. It's our spiritual practice as a devotion we call spiritual exercise. So chant the sacred tones, the sacred names. I heard Lori talk about a regular offering here at the seminary of the Sacred Tones workshop. There's a packet. Is that called Sacred Tones? Getting some nodding heads. So there's a packet that you can make yourself available to. So there's lots of information. What's really important is to understand you're not stuck. And any experience that occurs to you in such a way as you feel trapped, misunderstood, out of alignment, disturbed, frustrated, angry, disconsolate, and I think depressed. There you go. And depressed, it's an awareness that your fullness is in a lesser condition. So you're missing your fullness. That's awareness. So do what would bring you to your fullness. Sometimes that's simply patience. Like, it's dark. It's dark where we are. Maybe where you are, it's like, no, it isn't. It's sunny. Because that's a reality if we just consider what's going on the planet, that there are places where the sun is shining. So that's a temporary condition. Darkness is something, as we come to understand the ways of the world, then darkness is a way of the world. It's a temporary way. And when we understand the sun, and I'm talking about even a higher sun than the one in this solar system, but even this one, there's a constancy, there's a continuance. It's constantly radiating and issuing forth in all directions. And life in this world has formed itself in such a way as it has a dependency on the sun, whether we realize that or not. Then there are those who seek the knowledge of this creation and then would tell us, well, this sun is temporary. Temporary? It's been here through all recorded history. Well, there's history beyond what you record. There's unconscious knowledge. This is all a way of saying I'm encouraging you, to find your joy, to find your peace. Hold, be patient, be faithful, trust yourself. It's coming. Do you have anything you want to add, Michael?
Another way to understand that point of view of suffering, where you feel the hopelessness and the desire to not want to be here, is to understand that when that happens, you're trapped in a level of perspective, that you've gotten trapped in a way of seeing that shows you no solution or no outcome that seems favorable or even possible for you. And energetically, within ourselves, we often can relate to it like the chakras that the yogis and the mystics talk about as the ladder of light that goes up through our body. And so inevitably, when we're in that most depressed place, we get trapped in a perspective that if you could see the energetic of your body, you realize that you've overactivated these lower centers of your body. That's why when we meditate, we focus into the third eye, sometimes the heart, but particularly the third eye or the crown of our head, because just the very act of shifting our focus that way starts to break the hold of the perspective that's entrapping us. Inevitably, that perspective will be down in the lower centers, usually associated with in our physical anatomy, with our stomach area, our belly button, those areas. And these are the places where we fall into that depressed, hopeless place. That's why one of the first keys to getting out of those places is sometimes to move your body. Because the very act of moving your body, the very act of movement creates an equalization of focus automatically inside of us, because simple movement is we start to become more aware of something beyond this limited place we're trapped in. Many times, without realizing it, we get trapped into the programming of life, which is designed to encourage us to chase our dreams and chase our fantasies into a fulfillment that in the end lets us down. And you could see it as almost like the world, and through the world, the negativity throws out little breadcrumbs that we go after. Maybe it's little gold coins, or maybe little red hearts if it's a romantic thing. And we follow along that trail without realizing that trail is taking us gradually down in our energy. And we haven't realized it. And all of a sudden we hit that dead end place and it feels hopeless and we're trapped back here. So a big part of what the Spirit is doing and the traveler consciousness is doing is it's constantly offering us an alternate perspective. And so each time we start to get caught in any outcome, and this is true even if it seems like a favorable outcome, always look around and say, well, is there another way of seeing this? When we find God consciousness, we find that which sees all things in all ways, because God has infinite perspective. That's God consciousness. But our way, first and foremost, into God consciousness is first through that elevated consciousness of the soul, which we connect to through these points in the third eye and the crown, which it sees itself as part of all things. Eventually, we use that as a transit point to go into God consciousness, where we see ourselves as all things. And all perspectives are simultaneously ours, because we are simultaneously one with that which has all perspective.
And furthermore, we'll go to somebody else's. Well, first of all, hello, beautiful souls. Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for recognizing that. And, you know, the way we greet one another is very important. It sets a tone and a vibration. So many cultures have adapted ways that are familiar, that mean something that is connecting and engaging our higher self, so that the beloved in me greets the beloved in you, and that we have this connection. I would love to hear insights about a situation that has been very challenging for me. 2 years ago, I lost all my financial wealth. I bet you there were some pennies around here, or coins somewhere. So be careful what you tell yourself. Because if you tell it in some way that's not quite accurate, in a way you're saying, okay, I'm just called forward losing all my financial wealth. Is that really what you want to call forward? Well, no, I'm embellishing here a bit just to make the point, or maybe draw sympathy, or would you help me out, or lend me a dime, brother? Something like that. You know, be careful, you know, what you're representing, so that you come clean and you come what it is. So let's say you had significantly a loss of what you consider your financial wealth. House, investments, everything. Everything? Your breath, your ability to digest food, because some people don't have that. Really? It's like, yeah, you have that. You should be thankful that you have the ability to digest food. that you have water you can drink. Instead of water that once you put it in your system says, no way are we going to keep this water here. And it's already infesting and causing issues. So clean water and clean air and just clean is something to be thankful for when you have that available for you. Thankful because of my University of Santa Monica skills. University of Santa Monica is one of the organizations founded by John Roger, and it's very active and very wonderful, helping people understand their spiritual psychology, etc. I've gone from grief and depression to a much more peaceful place inside. Okay, then you know how to do that. Well, homeostasis, but let's just consider it's a state that we naturally return to. So if there's a temporary condition, like you throw a large rock into a pool of water, and then there's a splash and there's some agitation like waves, that it's going to return to its homeostasis, which would be, let's say, its natural state, would be another way of looking at it. And so are we. So let's consider your peaceful place inside as your natural state. Claim it. So that when you're agitated, when you're disturbed, when your life takes things from you, well, what's your natural state? Well, I'm wealthy. I'm prosperous. I'm abundant. Well, what are you doing about that? I'm creating that. I'm claiming it as a realization, as an intention that's active once again. So affirmation, and being conscious of what do you affirm, what do you claim. And claim it with your body, mind, and spirit, which is a very important part of how we do spiritual exercise. Do it as though it's your next breath. If you don't do this tone correctly, your next breath is withheld. What if that was put in this level? Actually, it'd be good. Because this level is designed for return. So you come back until you get it right. Well, we're doing that, aren't we? Yeah, so maybe it's just a little longer breath called a lifetime. Oh, I get it. So we're in the movement that is fulfilling what's here in this breath, in this moment. And it's important that we have a correct identification, a correct awareness of what is that, who I am. And so in your consciousness, you locate it. So if you're momentarily disturbed, like somebody has thrown a rock in your garden or something like that, that you relocate, you re-identify to your natural order. You become conscious of it. It's important to take pause, to focus on who you are in a moment of disturbance. So if there's disturbance, you're calm. That's your natural state. I have largely forgiven myself. Well, just catch up to God. You're forgiven. I reside in much peace most of the time despite significant financial hardship. You can reside in peace regardless of your finances. Just do that. It's a great exercise. Be peaceful regardless of what's in your wallet or your so-called bank account. Just go to the peace. I have a great desire for financial freedom and to attract abundance like I had before. Okay, be careful that your desire isn't out here. Because as you already could notice about your life, it's subject to being taken. The Lord taketh, and the Lord giveth. And you'd say, well, that's the rhythm. Which rhythm am I on? Well, remember what we were looking at earlier? It's dark. That's a temporary condition. What is it? Well, the reality in my life is I'm wealthy. How are you wealthy? I have this breath, and it brings to me everything I need in this moment. What does, or what do you recommend I do spiritually to align for this? Thank God. Start there. Well, I don't mean it. I have something to take up. I have an argument with God. It's like, go ahead. That's proverbially called the madman, or whoever the feminine version of that is. Be thankful. You have anything to add there, young man?
You kind of covered what I was hearing just a little bit. Relates to this person, but also a principle of, there's a karma here of having had the wealth stolen from this person in another time, and then assuming a hopeless attitude of recovery, and then falling into a consciousness of despair and then self-abandonment. So sometimes we will repeat these things until we get it right, and getting it right is not necessarily measured in a bank account. It's always measured in our approach and our attitude, and the understanding that from the higher perspective, everything that comes to us is a gift to us. And sometimes the hardest things are the greatest gift, because inevitably it's from the hardest things we get the greatest growth. Not that we should ask for hardship, but we ask for growth, and God answers our prayers by giving us those things that stretch us past limitation. So for the person who wrote that card, and for many people, when adversity comes, one of the first things to do is look for the opportunity that is in the adversity. Sometimes it's just a strengthener, which shows us that we can outlast the lack that we're now experiencing as a replacement for what we had as a comfort before. And the other thing is that to see that this is brought to us as an awakener for us, for us to understand that we've misperceived, that we've got caught up in a picture or identification of ourselves as requiring things that we really don't. And as John so eloquently said, about the next breath, in the end, to have life here, that's all it takes, is to be able to breathe. Everything else we can eventually run out of food, and eventually run out of water, but the breath is pretty quick. If we don't have it, we no longer have life. And sometimes God reduces us to that, to shake away the falsehoods, that which can be shaken will be shaken. And so be careful what you ask for, because sometimes that's going to bring to you your growth in a way you didn't expect it. But be grateful, because sometimes it's the stripping away of the pretense of needing materials. Security, and in the letter there was something about financial security. And as soon as we start to think of our security in terms of finances, we're deep in trouble, because the negativity can always shake that. We want to find that treasure trove that cannot be shaken. And that's the kingdom of heaven within. Amen.
Let's see. So I may need some translation from Spanish. Maybe Ronaldo, can you? I don't know. Are you going to be putting that out over the? Okay, here we go. So it's hola, buenas noches. That's it. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, thank you. ¿Cómo puedo?
How can I?
Let's see if I can read this. Okay, it's like mani and erme. Looks like mente and enerme.
How can I maintain myself?
Okay, más en el presente.
More in the present.
No pasado, no futuro.
Without thinking about the future.
Or the past. Okay. Good luck. I haven't been able to manage that, so. However, our consciousness is above and greater than the mind. So what the mind does, where it traverses, and there are a lot of ways we could refer to this, but it's essentially that the mind is subject to conditionality and what it can conceive, what it can perceive, and how that functions in a mental capacity. It's meant to be something that helps us focus on what is on purpose now. So the mind is very helpful when we use it in that way as a tool. So it's been said, it's a great tool, lousy master. So don't give your mastery over to what your thoughts are doing until you have something on the order of the greatest thought that's ever been beheld. Like the thought that is of God consciousness. And you start having that kind of thought, then I'd go with it. Like, allow yourself to have that experience. It'd be very expansive, and use your mind as something that's open to be aware as much as it can, and that at some point you use it to transcend, to step higher in awareness.
The way beyond past and future, very much as John said, but just another way of looking at that is that the one that is God maintains the present. There's a saying that God can only be known in the moment, in the present, but in the reality, God is the present. God is the force that makes all being exist, and all being exists now. So that which is God, and since that is also us, is always in the now. So the recognition of getting out of the future and the past is the recognition of what is so. So when we do spiritual exercises or any approach that lifts us above the experience of reality as being time and space oriented, when we step beyond that, and as soon as we do that, we step outside of the past and the future, which is the illusion of time. The thing is, who we really are is always outside that. Who we pretend to be is locked inside it. So the ultimate solution is really the only solution is wake up, come aware that you are always the Lord and you always are one with the Lord. That the kingdom of heaven is at hand is another way of saying is that what is so, that has no limitation in time and no limitation in space, is the only truth. And every moment God is calling us to that truth. When we answer that call, we're free of time and space, and we have what we're after. Amen.
I would love to fully open my heart to having a grace-filled, loving relationship in my life. Claim it so that your relationship is loving and grace-filled. Allow yourself to let go. And there's a phrase that comes immediately after that I often hear. As soon as I hear let go, I hear let God. You go, well, that's double your flavor, double your fun. It's as repetitive as something like the mind locks onto as a habitual form. It's okay if it works. So letting go, letting God. So what would that be? It'd be relax and be open, be patient as God reveals that your life is full of grace, that your life is good and loving. Could that include another person? Sure, why not? Of course. It can include the entire world, every person, because you already have what this is inside you. So if you want to share it and express it to another one and to all, that's your ability. It's God's ability. If you choose to limit it because of how you relate in judgment, in some form of contraction, and often that's something you would experience tangibly, sensationally, that you could feel something in the pit of your stomach, or whatever it does to you when you're upset, when you're rejecting what is appearing before you as God's divine plan. And consider this, that everything that is appearing before us in some way is in God's divine plan. That may seem preposterous again, because, well, why would a loving, intelligent God do such a thing? To teach us, to allow us to have a temporary experience, so that if we understood, we never truly get hurt spiritually. Not one moment. Well, then what are we doing? We're learning. So it's like clay that in some way is formed, and then at the end of the day, it's heated up and it goes back to the clay realm, and then comes out another day, so that the circumstances and the conditions in our lives are all designed to lift us, to teach us what we need to realize. May I ask for the light and the birthday blessing? It's my birthday today. You just did. And let's just consider it's about your incarnation, your appearance into this world, that God sent you here with a divine mission. And we're thankful, and as you can also be thankful for your life. So there's a way to celebrate. Be thankful for your life. Not just today, every day. With so much gratitude for all you do, including these live broadcast seminars, light blessings, joy to you. And Lee, okay, can you go to that young lady right over there? And your wedding day. Well, we'll take that blessing, and if you want to attend, it's January 1st, coming up. We're going to be doing New Year's resolution. The night before, we're going to do the Sacred Tones, also online. So if you're online now, you can do that on the 31st, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. right here in this room with President of MSI, Paul Kay, and then the next morning, starting at 10 a.m., I'm going to be conducting the New Year's resolution workshop with my own very important resolution, to be married to Lee, and to let Lee marry me, and come join the show. I'm wondering why from time to time, like today, I feel very negative and afraid. Because God doesn't like you. That's a lie. That's a lie. But sometimes we form it like that, like we're being picked on, or not being respected. It's not fair. So then we're discouraged, disappointed. There's a key in disappointment. You've appointed something that you had no business appointing. So cancel that appointment. Oh, I can do that? Yes, just because you make an appointment doesn't mean you can't cancel it or renegotiate it for something that you do want. So be careful what you put before you as your focus, as your attachment. And that's often where the negativity comes from, is that we're overly attached, overly engaged mentally, emotionally, physically. And something is going to come along to help us release that. So this is your liberation. It starts out as something that would bring your awareness to my approach in life is not working. So be thankful. That's a messenger. Thank the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. Thank the messenger. Thank the awareness inside of you that says, this isn't working. Then we have a phrase in the teachings that many of us have heard over and over: have the wit to let it go. If it's not working for you, that's a key teaching. Like, wake up, be intelligent in your life. Now what? So let it go. First part is release, relax, accept. Then you're in a position that's open. What do you want to create? So you didn't put that on there, but let's just say you want to create something like health, wealth, happiness. Just those three words can start ordering your personal universe, that you're a creator, and with that focus, you bring forward the positive opportunities that are in your life. Okay, next. How does it feel to be getting married to Lee? I'll tell you after the first. No, I am wonderful, delightful. God's a blessing, and just all the things that are coming forward because we announced it and then scheduled it and planned it. It's already demonstrating it's a great choice. What do you think of the people that have... I think this has killed others recently. Well, I'm going to go with that, even if you said, I didn't write that. It's like, well, I'm going to go with it anyway. Do you believe in real psychopaths? Where is their Christ? At the same place it is in you, inside. And so it's important to understand that when people act in discord with their true nature and their high nature, they know not what they do. They're not in their right mind. You go, well, they're insane, they're crazy. Well, that's obvious, or they wouldn't be doing these things. One of the ministries that we all have is to stop the negativity. I just, wow, that worked. So there's more peace. And how do we stop it? Sometimes it is a physical thing. Any of you who have been parents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are moments when you stop the negativity. And that's your authority, that's your responsibility, that's your love. Is it always fun and joy? At some point when we understand it's about the love and the joy, yes it is. And on the way, sometimes we get involved. And that's something each person can look at. Like, well, do we have responsibility to stop people killing or murdering, doing violence, violating, harming, all of these kinds of things? Well, yes, we do. How would we do it? Not by doing it in return. That's the law. You go, well, they need that. You might want to go for something above the judgment. And so whoever stated, judgment is mine, then take it at their word. So I don't have to do judgment. Right, judge not. And there's something that comes in with that if you judge, then you have judged yourself. That's what you've done. So if you consider somebody a psychopath, then you're setting yourself up to what? Have the experience of a psychopath. Is that what you want? I think you're probably going to say, no, I don't want that. Well, then you might want to not call somebody that unless it's in a loving way, that you're really looking at the way you're expressing is not connected to your love, to your caring, to your beauty, to the beauty of that person, to the love of who they are. That's awareness. We can all use a lot more of that. When these things happen, in the level of who we are in this world, it's correct to be disturbed. It is correct. That if we're not in some way impacted, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychically, by the disturbance, then you're not alive. You're not awake and aware of who you are spiritually. And there's a very simple line that John Roger drew about this for us, that evil's unnecessary experience. So hurting someone, killing somebody, violating somebody, when we really look with our full intelligence and wisdom, we would not do that. So obviously, whoever's expressing this way is not expressing from that. So how do we, in some way, move ourselves there? Well, we begin with ourselves. And I love the example that's in the story of Jesus, forgive them for they know not what they do. And when I look at what that consciousness is revealing, I find forgive all, in all time, in all circumstances. And to the measure that each of us forgives is the measure we are forgiven. That came through that same consciousness. And would I want to be forgiven for my trespasses, for my violations? Yes, and I've had the experience. It's amazing grace. It's gorgeous. Some people think that forgiving someone is a license for them to repeat. Like, that's okay, go do it again. We forgive you. No problem. No, that's not what's there. You know, what's there is it doesn't help to condemn, to punish. You go, well, tell that to my kid. You know, because they keep repeating the thing I don't want them to do. So I got to a place where I just whacked them. Okay, and then what did that create for you? Upset, disturbance, misunderstanding. Why would you do such a thing? Because you're doing what I don't like and I don't want, and I'm letting you know you didn't listen. I yelled, I screamed, I threatened. You still didn't listen, so I got involved. Now what? Well, you got karma. But we came in with it. So some of it is the karma's working itself out. And there are balancing actions. There are what has been created in past creation comes around and delivers like a truck. You know, like, well, it just dumped what a truck dumps into my yard. Okay, clean it up. Yeah, but who sent that truck? You did. You put it in the order. I don't remember that. Convenient memory. So, you know, there's something here for us that when we realize what is taking place spiritually, we do not judge, we do not condemn. And what do? We find mercy, but some of that mercy goes to stop that, and we will stop you. So we hold you in a position. We arrest you. Why did you arrest me? Because you are violating yourself or others. I see the grace in that, to stop it, and to have the willingness to stop it. But how do we stop it? That's a big question right in this moment. So there's a lot of debate going on about how do we stop these kinds of expressions. And part of that awareness is to realize it's been going on as long as we can remember. So this isn't really anything new. Let's consider that what's new is the opportunity to change the karma and how we respond. So how we respond as a person, as a family, as a community, just keep going. So what I've seen as one effort I've seen is was it #26, and that's about 26 acts of kindness. Katie Curry, no, not Katie Curry, Ann Curry, thank you. Both worked on the Today Show. So she initiated an effort, and so people are going around for the 26 people. What am I referring to? The people they identified as killed in Newport, but there were 2 other people that were killed. So really you go, well, it was 28, including the person who perpetrated it. If we don't have some level of forgiveness for that person, then we're in a way asking for it to be done again, because we haven't learned the lesson that we need to forgive all. That, well, we made it to 26, isn't that pretty good? No, it's all. So 20, okay, I'll forgive the mother, even though she gave him the gun. Okay, I'll forgive him. That's where we need to go. And part of that is, well, let's stop those who are going to be the next in line. And that's part of the awareness. Like, well, where would this happen again if we don't, in some way, realize we're creating this? And it's in the love one another. That's where it is. And it's in the awareness.
Beautiful. The only thing I had to really add on that is they're talking about, as the Hindus would say, we are all in a sense in the Maya, in the dream here. So in a sense, we are all insane. Because we're all acting out and pretending a life that from a greater perspective, has an insanity to it because it makes no sense. It makes no sense from a higher perspective for us to invest all our energy and allegiance to beautifying our bodies, to fortifying ourselves with money and things and security, through working all day long at jobs we don't like, through putting up with stress and discomfort that takes us away from remembrance of the beauty of life and the beauty of our fellow man, all in the name of something, of a prize we think we're going to get to keep, when in reality we keep none of it. That's insanity. So insanity is a fundamental thing that we all deal in based on the perspective we hold and can see it from. So ordinary life from the spirit level is insane. Now within the insanity of the life we live here, there are those things that appear insane to us within this reality. We've said this is how this is, and therefore that's insane because it doesn't fit this. But you must remember that many of the great masters who came forward on this planet were also looked at as insane. A guy named Jesus was looked at as crazy and insane by many of the people in his time. That isn't excusing these acts. There's an act of self-correction for ourselves, an act of love for ourselves and love for them, as John so eloquently portrayed. But there's a fundamental thing that says, judge not, lest ye be judged. And another way of saying it is, whatever you judge, you're going to end up having to manifest, to understand that it's not worthy of judgment. So, the fundamental insanity we deal in is the illusion of separation from one another. And that's why we are our brother's keeper. And that's why Jesus said, when you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. So that person who committed that horrible act, we have to understand our condemnation of them is like condemning the Christ, condemning Jesus. So we're called again and again to bring the same love to that one that we would bring to the love of our Lord. And that way we sanctify the experience and we heal it for that one, we heal it for ourselves, and we heal it for our planet. And we start to restore sanity. We start to bring us back to the prior condition before we entered this stream, which is awareness of our complete oneness with all, and therefore our complete responsibility for all, and our complete love of all. Amen.
My heart could use some loving and filling up with joy. We'll consider it's being poured in everywhere and everything. So breathe it in. Let it come into the mind. Let it come into all of your cells and consciousness. It's something that has been referred to as triumphant joy. It will overcome whatever there is. There's a lot of talk about a special energy being outpoured at this time, it being the end of 2012 and the world entering a new era. Could you give us more information? My information is it's always been a special energy outpouring. And for those who are awake, those who are ready and open and willing, that's important. So just consider there's no limit to how you can experience the Spirit. There's limit in the body, so bodies have limitations, and the psyche, so the psychic levels that we relate to as feelings and images and thoughts and whatever is in the unconscious. These by design have limitations so we can process. As we learn to process into the higher consciousness that's always available, then we're taken in. That's the more correct way to understand, well, how does this work? We go in and we go up. And that movement is always on. And the limit would be our willingness, our ability to handle it. God has no limitation. So the source, the creator that's outpouring, is doing it in such a way as that we can experience the kingdom. And the kingdom is at hand. Well, was that because Jesus showed up? No, it's like somebody just saying, hey, the kingdom's at hand, everybody. And, oh, thank you for pointing that out. And sometimes that's what the messenger is doing. It's just helping us realize what's already present. And then in some way they're demonstrating, well, what happens to us when we're aware, when we're conscious, when we abide and cooperate with those higher qualities, we become more loving. Is there movement on the planet, as in a cycle? Sure. If we don't become more caring and more loving, we're already perpetuating cycles that have finite limitations. You know, it's like how much pollution can we do before it's poison? You know, and then can we handle it? So some of that is, you know, are we adapting as mutating creatures? Maybe you never thought of yourself that way, but just say that that's part of what we all need to do, is learn how to adapt, how to handle the new conditions, so that perhaps the last generation or 3 generations ago, they couldn't handle this if you put them here, if you inserted them into these conditions. They might be gasping or choking or any other way that would indicate, I don't know how to handle this. So we do, so that we have progressed, but we're also doing things that the planet itself is a body. It's an entity of like we are, and so it has form, like we have form, and it has a life. So it's a living, breathing entity. And how we conduct ourselves in relation to the world, the natural state of the world, is being measured by the laws that govern this world. So there's physical laws that help us come into alignment. It's fairly simple if we just take advantage of loving, caring, and making that the order of what we do with everything, including, you know, the plants and the animal kingdoms and all the kingdoms here. So you can say, well, I don't like the third microbial kingdom. Can you do something about getting rid of that? You know, and all these terrible viruses that are mutated so that we can't kill them anymore. We were never put here to kill any level. You know, that's not ours. So that belongs to the higher order. And that's already something that's in place. So then, well, how do we conduct ourselves in relation to this cycle, this new opportunity? We come into greater cooperation with how things work in this world, that we're in a phase where more and more we need to realize we're all brothers and sisters. You know, that's what's showing up, that more and more we are related. We're related because we are breathing the air, and that air, whatever is the state of it, is going around. And we're sharing the water, and we're sharing the soil, we're sharing all the resources of this world. So the more we come into cooperation with how that works and with one another, then the more we can have heaven on earth. The way we conduct it here is start with yourself. First, induct the kingdom that's with you, so it becomes a living expression of the living God, that you become one who breathes and manifests at every level. And it becomes something very natural, something like kindness, that there's just more kindness, there's more compassion for one another. That this world's in need of it. I'm hearing John Roger, enjoy the food you eat, enjoy, the sights you see, enjoy cleaning messes up. Enjoy making a mess that you're going to clean up later. Called a cake or something like that. It's like, yeah, I'm making a cake, going to making a mess. It's like, that's okay. Because there are things that go with this level that we need to pick up and return to the state so it reorders itself. And if we're not smart enough to cooperate with how that is, then we're shown what takes place in the limitations of the world that have always been here, helping us realize we're to come here as servants of the Most High. And the Most High is already here in full standing, fully present. So God is present first, is the first creator in this level. And we are realizing ourselves as co-creators with that logos, that manifestation of the divine into the planetary system. That was another mini seminar, Berush Beshan. Did you have anything you want to add?
Along the same line, but there is a truth that in the spirit world, the spiritual reality, and ultimately all realities are the spiritual reality. Even this pretend reality at root is a spirit reality. But Christ, or the consciousness we know as Christ, is meditating this world awake. But meditating and awake is not necessarily what we think is awake. What's really been happening is that there's been an intentionality set forward that is playing itself out. This is an intentionality of an old plan of creation, an old plan of progression, an old plan of evolution, an old plan of an eye for an eye, the fulfillment of a law set in motion back in far distant time in the seeds of this creation itself. And there's an alternative way of progression, an alternative way of dealing with existence and life, which is changing the focus away from an eye for an eye and the law of karma and the law of balance into a greater focus upon the learning and a greater focus upon the transformation of consciousness through learning. This is really set up as a way that God could know itself. So God created all manifestation, and then God extended itself into this manifestation in an individuated expression, which we refer to as the soul. So each soul then is God's eyes going out to examine what God has manifested in a unique perspective to then return it back into God so God could know itself in all the different perspectives that are possible to know itself. Because while God has the total perspective, it doesn't have all the individual perspectives and all the individual storylines that could be manifested through the soul's journey. Yet this was originally set up under a karmic conditioning that said the law of cause and effect would be the determinant of progression and the determinant of outcome for every soul. But there was a flaw within this plan, because in the nature of the karmic journey, there was an entrapment going on for the soul where the repetitiveness of experience became a dominant theme. And as John so eloquently said earlier, evil is unnecessary experience. So a whole unnecessary quality was coming into the experience of the soul within these creative levels. So it was seen on high that this was a flaw in the plan, and so an alternative plan was set forward under the directorship of a great spiritual form, angelic form, that we could say is in a sense another son of God. And so it came forward with this alternative way of running this manifestation and completing the journey for the souls that are part of it. That consciousness that had the original job of setting forward the intention opposes this change. And so we are in a conflict between these two plans or these two intentionalities of God. And so the manifestation of this new intentionality that we know and experience is coming under the Christ with a message of loving, and that the important thing is the soul learn its lessons, not that it balance everything for an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It's starting to swing the balance on this planet and starting to make a movement where the greater movement of planet is shifting away from the inertia that our planet has been stuck in, being under the karmic law and under the Luciferian plan. and starting to come into the greater possibility and the greater movement that the Christ plan affords us. And in the spirit world, there's been spiritual battle going on, not as armies marching and guns blazing, but more like oppositional approaches to how all things can be seen and known and how all awakening can come about. This is a time of pivoting within consciousness, within the collective consciousness of all the planet and in the spiritual heavens, where the momentum is shifting so that the Christ plan is starting to regain the ascendancy on this earth. So it's a pivotal time, and that's why it all gets related to this. The reality is, in the spirit, there really is no time or space, but we who are in the dream and in the confines of this experience, we relate to it according to time and space, and so it's been recognized within us that this is transpiring at this time. And it's not so much more that Christ is giving more to us, is that more of us are receptive to it, and so therefore more of what is given is being received and being utilized and being amplified. Much like as if you were by a pool and the sun was shining, the sun would strike you, but if you're near the water would reflect and carry more of that sunlight, or by the snow and carry more of sunlight. So in a sense, we are adding to the effect by each one of us coming more awake to this greater possibility. Amen.
I have a pattern in my life where I'm always looking to have a relationship with married men. And in doing so, I end up suffering and hurting myself and distracting myself from what I really want. But for some reason, which I cannot understand, I end up involved in this area. Please provide some guidance beyond just loving the situation, as I've already tried that. One of our abilities is to do things habitually and repetitively. So including what you refer to as involvement with married men and all of that means in your life experience and what you've chosen for yourself and allowed, which is another part of it. That when we endeavor as we can, as we have the consciousness to do, to go into a high state, and a state that's more of the nature of what would serve in the highest good. And to understand that that becomes something referred to biblically as the straight and narrow. That you're now placing a dedication for yourself that has a great deal of, I don't need that, that's not serving in the best way, in the highest way. There are better choices available to me. And when you've done the pattern, what you also set up is something called the law of reversibility. It's just another way of talking about karma. And what it means is you put things in motion that tempt you. So they have attraction, they have fascination, desire, lust. You can just go down the track and say, well, what is that? Well, it's intense. What is that? It's psychic nature has an intensity, it has a fascination, an energy field that we call, well, it's magnetic. So it has a law of attraction in it. There's a higher law that has to do with grace. It has to do with loving, and even though you say, well, don't tell me this loving thing, because that didn't work. Well, the first loving is for yourself. So love yourself in such a way as you come clean. And in that coming clean can be the order that's revealed to you, and sin no more. Well, I was with you until you told me that. I don't know how to do that. I'm addicted, I'm obsessed, I'm possessed. All right, there are higher states, and part of that is to deal with that. So maybe it is something on the order of a spiritual rehab. Like, well, what would that look like? Well, it's a place like here. That there's an energy field that you come into here that helps lessen the magnetic nature and bring forward the higher spiritual nature, so that you can come into a place and you're literally surrounded and immersed with those who are looking to the highest, and because each one has the ability to call it forward in such a way as it overflows and it comes around, so that the energy fields of us gathered here tonight can also transmit to wherever you're gathered. If you're just by yourself, whoever wrote this, that it can transmit to you, that you're immersed, you're bathed, you're baptized in the Spirit. The Holy of Holies is present. And that's something that's graceful. It's also something that can take the magnetism from you. But there's also, well, it's been said this way, or very close to this, that if you remove one devil, you're going to get 7 in the place. So it might be better off just to deal with the one devil. It's like, oh, how'd you know that's who I got? It's like, that's another story. But, until you understand what you want to create, that you want to lift into an unconditional loving, that then can be a holy, sacred relationship that's not based upon sensuality. Like, how did that feel for you, and how did you feel for it? And let's worship that. Let's worship the sensuality. That's a diminishing return. Even if you just looked at that, your body eventually doesn't have the faculties anymore to really enjoy it as much. And so then you have to do things artificially to crank yourself up or down or whatever that is. And it's like, you're chasing something that at some point's going to be a lost opportunity. It's no longer available. And thank God, that these things come to an end. So whatever this is that's upon you, you'll be free of it. When you lift from the corporal body and you move into the spirit, then you're going to have the opportunity to witness for yourself what you've created in your life. What we often do in this movement is we give you that experience now. So you have an opportunity to go into the spiritual state and observe what you've created and what you would want to create for yourself. And then we do processes that go through the dream state, through the psyche, to help you better realize and understand your opportunities and to make better choices in your life. It can be helpful to do something that is like a drunk tank. And what does that mean? It's like you go to a place where you would never want to go there again. And that's helpful. Like with my son, I offered to get him drunk. Why? Because I'd rather have him have the experience with me. You go, well, what are you teaching him? I'm teaching him if you have too much, you get sick, you throw up. How do you feel? Lousy. This is the worst I've ever felt. Good. Do you want to do that again? No. Yeah. So if there's the temptation, if there's the pattern, then how do we process it in such a way as we become free in relationship to it? It's freedom that you're looking at. How do you bring the consciousness of freedom to you? Well, you call it forward so that when you do the choices that would match up with your freedom, they're choices about how you love yourself and care for yourself. And even if you involve yourself or indulge yourself, however you do that, so it's not just married men, there's all kinds of ways to indulge yourself. But if you do that in a way that you understand does not work, then you need an intervention. You need something that will interrupt the pattern. And sometimes there's conditions like a drunk tank that basically bring it to you in the University of Hard Knocks style, so that you have the pattern interrupt. And sometimes those pattern interrupts are called a morgue. That's how the pattern gets interrupted. Or it gets interrupted by other occurrences and other manifestations that basically say, well, what you won't do for yourself by your own free choice will be done for you, so that you see what you're creating. Now, some people look at that as really harsh. I look at it as us being served in the level of what serves us. And if we need a powerful experience, one will be provided. And sometimes that appears in the levels where we don't understand God's mysterious ways, as though it's harsh or it's not fair. When if we really looked at it, we'd understand it's entirely fair. It's entirely balancing what needs to take place. Better that you do that from your own free choice, that you understand you need help, that there's a better opportunity that you're seeking and is available to you. There are better relationships where you're available and the person you're involved in is available to you, and it's by free choice, and it's not about like making a transaction, and it's a momentary one night or something on that order type thing, that you're creating something that's lasting. There's nothing in this world that's designed to last. So if you're looking for it in that way, you're going to be disappointed. But if you can look at it as where it comes from is within you, from the source of joy, the source of happiness, and that allows you to extend that into all things that you're involved in this world, into all the conditions. So then it can be a relationship that's something where you're both looking together in the same direction. And that's something also beyond and transcending of your own nature, so that you're both reaching towards something greater than what you know in your present state.
The mark of Cain is upon many souls in this creation. In the story of Cain and Abel, where Cain slays his brother, it is the coveting that leads to his downfall, and leads to the action. And yet, when we look at what the coveting really is rooted in, it's rooted in a fundamental sense of insufficiency within the consciousness, where the consciousness is caught in the identification of its incompleteness and seeks a completeness and misidentifies that it can gain that completeness it seeks through the possession of something else or through the possession of the experience of another, that by entering into that experience, it can find a completeness it experiences. And so this is rooted deep in the psyche of many beings and is one of the fundamental challenges and learning and opportunity that we carry in the human expression, because it's rooted in the fundamental misperception that we are incomplete in the human form. The degrees by which we translate that desire to solve the incompleteness translates even into the ways we view God and the way we view the soul and the way we view spirit. And we look for soulmates, and we look for twin flames, and we look for that other part of ourselves so we can be complete. So it's rooted all through the fabric of our expression. The fact that it translates in with a married man or with any other form is just the particular dynamic that the individual karma is tailored to. But the greater learning is to recognize that the solution for all of us in all the addictions, all those things that we compel ourselves to, thinking that if we only had that, we would be fulfilled, we would be enough, is this fundamental misperception of incompleteness that we operate in. And that thing that solves the illusion of that is always going to be the realization of the ever-completeness of God that is entirely present for all of us. So the spiritual awakening becomes the solution to all things. We can find temporary solutions through programs and through different approaches to our particular addiction or particular attraction. Those are valuable for us, but they're all steps till one day we finally release them all by surrendering our consciousness and surrendering the illusion of incompleteness and accepting the fullness of God, or what we know as the kingdom of heaven at hand. Amen.
What is your favorite seminar, our JR seminar? The next one. I really don't know how to answer that one. There's just so many that I love. Well, let's just say this is what showed up, like in response to what you're asking here. Nuclear radiation at ground zero, something like that. I'm very curious about the qualities of light. Is there anything about clear light? Yes. I feel a different mind space when talking about the light, as if there's a certain type of mind that understands light and works with it as ordinary mind works with ordinary thoughts. You see how the mind works? That's how the mind inquires, and there is something about that you're going to exercise your mind anyway, so exercising it about the light and awareness of light is about as good a way as you can do that. That we often talk about light and love and consider that the light is the radiation, it's the emanation. And what is the love? And the love is the energy. You could relate to pure love as the sound, the vibration. So it comes across in energy, but it's also something that when we move our awareness so we're open, we don't know how to behold it, so we are in a state that requires us to keep letting go and releasing. So whatever temptation there is to conceive or mentalize what that is, or perceive what it is, that's a place where you get caught. So if you let your awareness do what the light does, and to understand that it's something like air and the movement of air, so that it's expanding. That's how I keep seeing it. And that could I keep up with it? Could I go faster than the speed of light? And what would that be? And it would be in a consciousness that's integrated in the wholeness. So, well, how would that be? Like, am I outside of it? There is no such thing. So then what am I? You are the light. And you're the light in all things and all states, all the creation. So that it's an emanation. And we can see it as a movement. Hence our name, the movement. A movement that's constantly rising. So it goes to a higher, more expanded light. And on the way, it reveals itself in all the forms, in all the radiations, the colors, the hues. And each vibration of the light has a God, a mastership, an ability to teach you endlessly. And yet we're called upon to keep expanding. This is a good exercise that we've just been experiencing. So clearly it's more than what my words can tell you. But it's a good one to do. There are every meditation is a meditation of light. Every awareness is light. And the more you allow yourself to be free in relation to what the light is, the more you allow yourself to be free in relation to the way the light is. The more you are free in relation to the way love is. The more you are free in relation to the way God is. And so in you. Beirish Beishan. So God bless you all. Happy New You. There was one person that wrote in and they were wondering, like, hey, the December 21st thing came when? What was the big whoop? What did anything happen? I mean, was there any? Yes. Well, let's just say that we're all hyped in a certain way so that we have been prepared. So just understand that it's always something that we can handle in relation to who we are, but not necessarily in relation to the way the limitations of the world would process, including our own limitations. So be glad, be thankful that we're in a new season, a new cycle of greater return to all that God is. Another mini seminar. Beirish Beishan.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Michael. We are really blessed. Please give John his space as he leaves. He may want to come up and talk to you, but give him the opportunity to approach you. So I just want to tell you about some upcoming events. Jana already mentioned a couple of them. There'll be a special New Year's Eve Sacred Tones workshop on the 31st with Paul Kay. And there's a New Year's Eve resolution spiritual spa day with John and his wedding with Lee Taylor Young. We're all invited to celebrate in their wedding ceremony. On Wednesday evenings, every Wednesday evening, there's a Spanish event here. The next one will be on the 2nd. And there's a Friday night recorded seminar here most Friday nights. And the next one will be with John Roger, a seminar from John Roger. And on January 11th, John will be back here to do a live seminar on Friday, January 11th. So thank you all for being here. God bless you all, online and in the room. And if you're in the room, please join us in the dining room for refreshments. God bless.
We can go wherever we want to, and we can be whatever we are. It's enough to be held in the hands of the Morton.